You're good. All right, good morning. I'm Dominic Gerace, the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of Ohio, and I'm joined today by Special Agent in Charge Jason Cromartie from the FBI, Special Agent in Charge Jason Reese from the United States Secret Service, and Deputy Chief Robert Sagal from the Columbus Division of Police. Not able to be with us here today, but certainly deserving of recognition are the Knox County, Ohio Sheriff's Office and the Danville, Ohio Police Department. And Special Agent in Charge Cromartie will talk a little bit more about them and thank them for what their role was. But it was a large role in this investigation, and I wanted to thank them personally as well. So we're here today to discuss the indictment of 8 men who are charged in 2 conspiracies related to the plot to kill federal government officials and other members of the public who attended the Ultimate Fighting Championship, or UFC, Freedom 250 event in Washington, D.C. at the White House on June 14th. Before I continue, I want to remind everybody that what I am about to discuss is alleged in charging instruments that contain allegations only, and that the defendants we're going to talk about today are presumed innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. As our court filings reveal, the investigation of this plot began on June 10th right here in the Southern District of Ohio, when Knox County Sheriff's deputies and Danville police officers responded to the Knox County resident of Tyson Proper after receiving a report from a concerned family member. Upon further investigation, Proper was arrested and charged in this district by criminal complaint. The investigation continued and led to the arrest of and federal criminal complaints filed against 6 other individuals located in 4 other federal jurisdictions across the country. Those individuals are Abraham Alvarez, Daniel Eskridge, William Faulkner, Jordan Rinker, Brian Roa, and Michael Thomas. Thanks to this quick law enforcement action and close coordination and cooperation between federal prosecutors in my office and those in the Central District of California, the Western District of Missouri, the District of Nebraska, and the Western District of Washington, as well as from the Department of Justice's National Security Division, this alleged plot was disrupted before it could be carried out, ensuring a safe and successful UFC Freedom 250 event on June 14th. The indictment handed down yesterday consolidates all of these previously filed criminal complaints into one charging instrument and adds an 8th defendant to the conspiracy, Chandler D. Skaggs, 21, of Chapmanville, West Virginia. Mr. Skaggs was taken into custody a few days ago in West Virginia. The indictment charges all 8 men with 2 conspiracy counts. The first count is a conspiracy to provide material support to terrorists by way of money, firearms, ammunition, body armor, explosives, drones, medical and communications equipment, as well as personnel, with the knowledge and intent that those resources were to be used in preparation for and to carry out the murder of federal officers and employees in the course of an attack on a federal facility and the use of a weapon of mass destruction. That first conspiracy count is punishable by up to 15 years of imprisonment. The second count is a conspiracy to commit murder on federal government territory and to murder a federal government official, including the President of the United States, the Vice President of the United States, and members of Congress. That second count is punishable by up to a lifetime of imprisonment. The indictment details several overt acts allegedly committed by the defendants in May and June of this year, including acquiring and maintaining firearms, ammunition and body armor, meeting to train in marksmanship and combat tactics, meeting to provide firearms and other gear to each other, purchasing a 3D printer to make drones, making plans to travel together to Washington, D.C., and actually beginning travel to Washington, D.C. The allegations in this indictment, we allege, show that these men were not simply airing grievances from behind their keyboards and sharing like-minded political ideologies. Rather, they took action to carry out a plot to attack the UFC Freedom 250 event and to murder federal officials at the highest levels of our government. Political discourse has many places in our society. Political violence has none. Because of the diligent, around-the-clock work of our AUSAs, our law enforcement partners, our sister U.S. attorneys' offices around the country, and the National Security Division, these 8 men are now in custody, and this threat to our government and to the public has been successfully neutralized. But our work is not finished. My office, along with our great law enforcement partners, will continue to do everything in our power to protect our fellow citizens from threats to their safety and to hold accountable those who would commit violence against our nation and its leaders. So I'm now going to turn things over to Special Agent in Charge Jason Cromartie from the FBI.
As mentioned, a group was making plans and taking steps to conduct an attack on our nation's capital. However, every day, the FBI takes steps to identify and to protect people from those threats. Good morning. My name is Jason Cromartie. I'm the Special Agent in Charge for FBI Cincinnati, which covers the southern and central portions of Ohio. The mission of the FBI's Joint Terrorism Task Force is to detect and disrupt terror plots that target Americans with an emphasis on preventing incidents before they occur. I'm honored to be here today with our partners to announce these indictments related to the threats against the Freedom 250 Ultimate Fighting Championship, or UFC, the event that was to be held at the White House last month. This is a classic example of see something, say something, saving lives, and how the law enforcement partnership comes together to keep our communities safe. The FBI is grateful for these partnerships that have helped prevent a tragedy. From the initial 911 call, our law enforcement colleagues with the Danville Police Department and the Knox County Sheriff's Office recognized a potential threat. Their deputies and patrol officers did a tremendous job at evaluating the situation, taking immediate action, and exposing this terrorist threat, and then contacting the FBI. When the FBI began to investigate Tyson Proper, we quickly learned of the alleged plot involved multiple people across the country coordinating and planning a violent attack. The FBI notified the Secret Service, who are great partners in our efforts to protect the U.S. homeland. Command post coordinated interviews, intelligence analysis, and execution of search warrants around the country quickly identified additional participants and evidence of this conspiracy. This resulted in additional subjects being arrested by the FBI over a matter of days in several states, as mentioned, in Missouri, Nebraska, and California. Through this investigation, we learned the group allegedly planned to carry out a mass casualty attack involving the use of drones, armed with explosives, and firearms meant to shoot people fleeing in the crowds. Our command posts also included membership of the Secret Service and other partners to share information in real time and to help ensure no violence occurred at the White House UFC event or any other high-profile events. Again, the FBI would like to thank our local partners at the Knox County Sheriff's Office, the Danville Police Department, and particularly members of the Columbus Division of Police, who were an integral part of this investigation. I must commend the special agents, the task force officers, the intelligence analysts, and the other team members of the Joint Terrorism Task Force and the many other law enforcement agencies and officers around the country for their work on this case. They continue their commitment to keeping people safe and working together to protect our nation, especially the work by the United States Attorney's Office and the Southern District of Ohio, who helped us put together this case. Together, we worked long hours, ceaselessly over several weeks to investigate, make fast work of uncovering connections, and disrupting this plot. I also want to thank FBI leadership and the various supporting divisions of FBI headquarters and the many FBI field offices coast to coast who are directly involved in this investigation. They've all committed significant amount of resource to ensure this conspiracy was aggressively and thoroughly investigated. Finally, the FBI wants to remind the public how important it is to speak up when they are concerned about something and they observe something that they observe this isn't right. Again, we've all heard this saying, see something, say something. This was an excellent case of someone who was concerned by what they were seeing and contacted law enforcement before violence could occur. I encourage the public, if something does not seem right, please alert the authorities. You can always call the FBI at 1-800-CALL-FBI, or in an emergency, please call 911. It is our partnerships with law enforcement and with the public together that strengthen our safety nationwide. Thank you. I'll now turn it over to the U.S. Secret Service, Jason Reese.
Thanks, Jason. And good morning. My name is Jason Reese. I'm the Special Agent in charge of the U.S. Secret Service in Cincinnati. I'd like to begin by thanking the U.S. Attorney's Office, the U.S. Attorney and his staff, our federal and local partners at the FBI and the Joint Terrorism Task Force, and the special agents and the technical investigators who got us to this point. There is no mission of greater importance to the Secret Service than the protection of our nation's leaders. And the work put into this investigation makes that point crystal clear. When the information came in, it was a great example of how layers of law enforcement can work efficiently together. Once we had the information that we needed, the Secret Service and federal and local partners were able to identify and lawfully interrupt a communication network that gave us a roadmap to a sinister plot targeting the White House complex. Our agents and support staff are always on alert. In this case, they worked around the clock and in a short window of time in order to mitigate and interdict this threat. I'm truly grateful for their tenacity. From here, the investigation and findings will be presented in court. We'll protect the integrity of that process, and any further comments will be made through official court filings. Lastly, I want to make very clear to the public that nobody is more aware of the threats that lurk outside of our doors than the Secret Service. Rest assured that this agency's vigilance and dedication to duty will continue to keep our nation's leaders and institutions safe. I'd like to introduce to you the Deputy Chief from the Columbus Division of Police, Deputy Chief Sagal. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Rob Sagal. I'm a Deputy Chief over Special Operations Subdivision of the Columbus Division of Police. On behalf of Chief Elaine Bryant, I wanted to thank all of our federal, state, and local partners for their efforts and collaboration on this case. Ohio Homeland Security protects the public by analyzing threats, sharing intelligence, safeguarding critical infrastructure, and coordinating emergency preparedness and response. Region 4, which includes much of central Ohio, including Knox County, works together to safeguard the largest city in Ohio and anything in the region which could impact Columbus. As the largest department in the state, the Columbus Division of Police has dedicated resources to the our Homeland Security Section Counterterrorism Unit and assigned them to the statewide Terrorism Analysis and Crime Center, which is the Ohio's Fusion Center. The Fusion Center network allows us to quickly address rapidly evolving situations and threats to our city, state, and throughout the nation. We also dedicate many resources to the local FBI Joint Terrorism Task Force, and we're proud of that partnership. These efforts cannot be accomplished alone. They are successful because of the partnerships, but not just because of the partnerships with law enforcement. It's the partnerships with the communities we serve. We would like to thank everyone involved in this case who saw something, said something, and took action. This is how we work together to ensure our communities thrive and our residents feel safe showing up to large events. Thank you.
Okay, we can now take some questions.
Was Mr. Cropper on anyone's radar before May?
I'm not aware of him being on anybody's radar before this concerned family member made the call to the sheriff's office.
Would this have been the first time that these eight ever met each other, and have any of them ever met
We have some information, and I'm going to try to stick to what's been filed in these various complaints that have been filed in the indictments. But there's some information in those indictments about meetings that occurred. In particular, there's a meeting, I think it was on June 13th, between one of the subjects in Nebraska, Alvarez, and a Missouri-based subject. I think it was Mr. Rinker. So they did meet up, and certainly we have information in our complaints and in the indictment talking about how there were plans to meet up, plans for Mr. Proper to drive to West Virginia to meet up with another individual, Mr. Skaggs, in West Virginia, and one of the subjects out, or the defendants out in California, Mr. Roa, having gotten in a car, planning to drive to pick up other members of the conspiracy. But a lot of the communication, obviously, is laid out in the complaint and the indictments was online through messaging apps and things of that sort.
How common are plots like this, and are they becoming more common with the prevalence of internet chat groups?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say how common plots are. I mean, there's, I think the internet chat groups, these encrypted applications that people use to message each other, make it more and more frequent, and they sort of embolden people to come up with plans and do these plans because they think they're not going to be detected, right? Hey, this is an encrypted app, I'm going to use that. The one, I think, really remarkable thing about what we're able to do at the federal levels, we do have these conspiracy charges and attempt charges and things of that nature. So when we get into an investigation like that, these are charges that don't require the completion of these underlying crimes. And so when we can get onto a messaging application and uncover some communications that reveal a potential plot, we have these tools federally to be able to charge individuals. We don't have to make them go all the way before we can hold them accountable and mitigate the threat.
Can you speak more to just the timeline? I mean, 4 days before the event doesn't seem like a ton of time, again, from my perspective, as somebody who doesn't do this.
Yeah, I mean, I think as laid out in our charging instruments, we've got communications that kind of started, at least with respect to this type of plot, in May. So a good month before the events. Things started to seem to have crystallized sometime in the beginning of June in terms of focusing in on the UFC Freedom 250 event. And certainly when you look at the communications, there were plans to do something at that event. Drones, explosives, there was firearms amassed, ammunition amassed, body armor, plans to travel, right? So, yeah, it might seem like a condensed timeline, but the intent from the communications that we've revealed in our complaints and in our indictments show that these folks were planning to act within that time frame.
Was the conspiracy larger than it was first believed?
It's like peeling back the layers of an onion sometimes on some of this stuff, right? So you have these chat rooms, you have certain participants in the chat rooms, and you're just trying to figure out who it is, who these folks are. And so you have a bunch of monikers being used, and you don't even know if it's one person using the same moniker or multiple monikers and that sort of thing. So I think at the beginning of the investigation, it wasn't clear how large it was going to turn out to be. And there were a number of folks involved in these chat rooms. There was a number of different chat groups that were compartmentalized, and then different levels of participation in those chat groups, right? So you had some people that maybe were lurking a little bit more and not really participating, some people that were fully participating, and then sort of anywhere in between in that spectrum. So it wasn't clear how big it was going to turn out to be. We've charged these 8 folks right now, but the investigation is going to continue until I think we feel, and the FBI feels, and the Secret Service and our law enforcement partners feel like we've charged everybody that we think needs to be charged in relation to this plot.
Do you anticipate more charges or more people charged?
I'm not going to say one way or the other. I'll just say the investigation is continuing at this point. I'm not going to tell you what I'm anticipating or not at this point.
Is there any indication who really started this of these 8 people? There's been various, through the complaints, this person had this kind of leadership role or this kind of leadership role. Was there one point person that was really the spearhead of this?
Well, I think we've charged our first named indictment, or first person named in the indictment is Alvarez. I think he's viewed, the shepherd is viewed as sort of a leader in this plot. That's the thing about conspiracies, and that's why conspiracies have been made, criminal conspiracies have been made illegal, right? Is once you get a bunch of people together and they start planning, you never know where the things go, right? And that leads back into the point about social media. That's only and not social media, but social messaging apps and encrypted apps, is that's only sort of amplified this. Why do we criminalize criminal conspiracies? Is because when you get a group of people planning to do illegal acts, that's viewed as just as serious as actually completing that illegal act, right? So I think when you look at these chats, you see a lot of involvement from a lot of people, and maybe it's different levels, and you might be able to characterize one person as more of a leader, and this person was in charge of looking at drones and things of that nature. But the folks that we've charged, we believe, were all conspirators. They agreed to commit an illegal act, and they were taking overt acts in furtherance of that conspiracy.
And what do you, how would you describe how likely they would have been to achieve this?
I would say it was achieve. It depends on what you mean by achieve it, but at the end of the day, I think we have evidence, and we've laid it out in the complaints and in the indictment, that these folks had amassed ammunition, had amassed weapons, were looking at 3D printers for drones, and had travel plans to go to D.C. So, what would have happened or could have happened, that's never going to be clear, because thank God there was an intervention here, and this thing was disrupted. But in my view, when I look at what's been alleged there, it seems pretty likely that someone was going to, someone or multiple people were driving to Washington, D.C. to do something.
When you talk about the concern for homegrown terrorists or extremists trying to carry out this kind of violence?
Yeah, there's always a concern for homegrown. We see that quite a bit. I think, I don't know if Jason wants to talk about this, but in my work in the past as a prosecutor with the JTTF, homegrown, we're just as concerned with homegrown as we are with an attack coming from someone overseas, obviously, right? And again, going back to the social media and the social messaging part of this, and chat rooms, and that seems to be an incubator for a lot of these ideas. People get in an echo chamber, they get together with like-minded individuals, and then they start concocting things. So we're always concerned with that. That's a major domestic terrorism, international terrorism, all sorts of terrorism we're focused on, but we're always concerned about homegrown extremists.
What does it say about the determination of these folks when, after they lost touch, according to what's in the complaint, said, after they lost touch with Mr. Proper, he was trying to find another way to get to DC.
Right.
What does that say to you about how determined they were next?
Yeah, I think it says a lot about that. I mean, I think it goes back to my point is this wasn't a pie in the sky type of thing. This isn't just people talking on messaging apps. These are people that were determined. Again, we had Mr. Roa get into a car in California to drive, and his car broke down, but he was on his way. Skaggs, to your point, when Proper kind of dropped off because the cops had been called, and he reported that, Skaggs was asking about how who else is going to come to pick me up so we can get out to D.C. So it goes back to the point of how likely was this? I think all those points lead to that conclusion.
You mentioned lurkers who weren't necessarily a part of anything and didn't participate, but were still there. Are you keeping eyes on those people?
I'll say this. I think the FBI, Secret Service, all our partners are doing a comprehensive investigation. And so I think it would be obviously irresponsible of us as federal law enforcement to not look at every single person that was potentially involved here or in these chat rooms or chat groups.
With respect to the 8 individuals, what comes next for them, and where are they being held?
Yeah, so we have 2 folks that are being held here in this district right now. We have everybody's detained, and so the other 6 are detained, but they're detained in other districts. 2 of those 6 are detained on our charges here. The other 4 were detained on complaints that were filed in those districts, and we expect them to be to appear on our indictment, and then eventually to be transported here to the Southern District of Ohio to appear and to face these charges. Thank you.